Hi, welcome to this week's video where we are going to cover additional things that you can do to assist in fat loss. So you probably already know that fat loss can be a very difficult process, and if you've watched any of my earlier videos, you would know that it requires a healthy metabolism, whole foods, a calorie deficit, and a consistent routine. If you want to watch that video first, I'll link it on the screen. Otherwise, you can watch it after this one. So aside from the basic principles of fat loss, there are a few other tweaks that we can make in order to enhance our chances of success on a fat loss journey. So that is what this video is about. Let's cover the nuances and additional things you can do to make your fat loss smoother, faster, and more long-lasting. So the first thing we want to do to enhance fat loss success is to optimize our digestion. So digestion is something you can go on about all day. Actually, I'm thinking of making a whole video on it. But for the sake of this one, let's focus on what can impact your digestion directly. And that is stress, low stomach acid or hydrochloric acid, not chewing your food properly, not being mindful while you eat, and NSAIDs, which is a class of drugs that have a nasty habit of depleting your stomach acid over time. So we'll get to how stress impacts your digestion in a few points' time. So right now, let's just focus on a couple of those things that you can control right off the bat, and that is your mindfulness while eating and how you eat your food. So you want to chew your food thoroughly. As the food enters your mouth and you start chewing, this triggers off your digestive system to prepare it for digesting food. If you rush this process, or if you're not mindful while you're doing it, then sometimes this process can be hindered and you're not going to get the same benefit from your nutrition as you would if you had taken your time. So you want to chew your food roughly 20 times before swallowing, and that does depend on the food, but especially if it's protein rich like chicken or beef or lamb or something like this, you really have to make sure that you've broken the food down into tiny microscopic pieces, because then what is going to happen is it then enters into the stomach where all the acid is, it gets churned around and broken down even further. Then it enters your intestines where the nutrients are actually extracted. If you don't chew it properly and you're swallowing large chunks of food, then this isn't going to be broken down completely by the stomach acid. The body's not that efficient. So we weren't really designed to eat and run. We were designed to sit and enjoy our meals and to make sure we chew them properly. And so then on top of that, we want to eat mindfully, which just means that sitting down with a meal when you actually have time to enjoy it. Not scrolling on your phone, not looking on Instagram, not watching TV. You want to be focused on the meal. So actually taking in the fact that you are eating. If you don't do that, then what often happens is we actually eat the food so quickly, and I'm totally guilty of this. I used to do it in the past. It's almost like we forgot we ate it and then we're actually just still hungry after. Not to mention what I already said, which is where you don't chew it properly and you actually don't get the full benefit. So sit down with your food, chew it thoroughly, enjoy what you're eating, be mindful, avoid distraction, and make sure you get the most out of this process. And lastly, on digestion, you may have low stomach acid. So painkillers can cause a depletion in stomach acid, as can stress. This is often diagnosed as reflux or heartburn. It's sometimes the opposite of what you actually think it is. And the acid is actually what's going to break down the food. So one thing you can do if you find that you have a lot of bloating after eating is to have 1 tablespoon of organic apple cider vinegar in water before you eat your meal. And this will help to break it down, help to improve stomach acid production, and hopefully help you digest your meal better. A lot of my clients do this, reduces bloating like magic. The second one I want to recommend is to eat voluminous foods. So when you're on a calorie deficit and you're trying to lose fat, you tend to obsess over food. That's the body's way of trying to get you to eat more and to maintain the weight that you're currently at. So this is where things like bodybuilding are super beneficial, because when your calories are so low and your output is so high and you are so hungry and so lean, you find all these really magical ways to eat lots of food that has absolutely no calories. And this is just things like salads and vegetables. We do things like zucchini oats, so grating zucchini into the oats. You can switch something like normal rice for cauliflower rice. In fact, you'll get about 4 times the amount of rice if you have cauliflower instead of rice. You know, potato is about double what a half cup of rice would be, so it's about 1 cup. You could eat a heap of berries over something like a mango. And as another example, you might have like a large apple that's about the same amount of carbohydrate as 2 lolly snakes. and you can imagine which one you're going to be more satiated on and which one is going to be harder to eat. Like you could probably eat 10 lolly snakes, but you could definitely not eat 5 apples. So I did make a video on this a couple of months ago. I will link that on the screen if you want to watch that. But higher volume food is going to keep you fuller for longer and also help you with the whole thing of eating for longer. So especially if you're a food addict and you love to eat, and one of the things that you hate about dieting is how little food you get to eat, then this is the number one tip you want to throw in there. My third tip is to lay off the alcohol. A lot of people will say, and they will sell you this because it's very appealing and it makes a lot of money, but they'll tell you that you can lose fat while you're drinking alcohol. I personally keep all of my clients off alcohol. If they are in an early stage of a transformation and they've just started losing body fat and they're really starting to get everything in line, alcohol, I will let that slip because they will still lose weight. But if you're someone who's been trying, or if you're trying to get to quite a lean point, your body might have a bit of resistance to, you absolutely want to avoid the alcohol. The reason for this is that it is a poison. So your liver has to break down the alcohol as a priority, but your liver is also required for fat loss. So if you have toxins in your fat loss cells and just for other metabolic processes, the liver is a central piece of this process. So if it is so busy breaking down alcohol because it's poisonous, then it actually is not going to worry about your body fat because that is not the priority. And you'd be surprised, like 4 glasses of wine may take you, say, 3 days to break down. It's not like you wake up the next day and you feel fine, you don't have a hangover, and then therefore you've processed it. It's probably still in there. So just keep that in mind. Keep alcohol very low when you're on a fat loss phase. Make the fat loss your liver's priority over alcohol detoxification. And also remember, there are many other toxic chemicals in the environment that your liver are fighting through every single day. And if you're someone who's got chronic stress or a lot of emotional baggage, and I don't mean that in an insulting way, we all carry this kind of thing that actually can also deplete the liver and makes it a lot harder to detox. Someone that might take one person a day to process might take you 4 or 5. So you have to be aware that your body might not be as healthy as somebody who is drinking alcohol and losing fat. And just remember that if you saw a program that said still drink alcohol and lose fat, you're probably more likely to buy that over something that maybe I would sell where I say don't drink alcohol because it sounds better. So the fourth one is stress management. So I talk about this in every single video because stress is a massive thing and it impedes lots of physiological processes, mind and body, and especially fat loss. People with high stress can actually gain fat on a calorie deficit. It is possible, and it happens with people with damaged metabolisms all the time. It's even happening to me right now. I've been gaining weight this week as I'm going through trauma therapy. It's causing a lot of stress on my body and I'm putting on weight despite not really changing my eating habits. But if you've seen my other videos, you would know that that would mean, because I'm under stress at the moment, that I would not start a fat loss phase. The best thing I can do is just eat as much nourishing food as I can, and then I would worry about fat loss if I want to once this process has passed. So the primary reasons why stress will impact your fat loss is cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and stress also causes the body to vacate blood from the digestive tract and into the arms and legs. So if you think about fight or flight, your body's more concerned with you running away. Even if it's a mental perceived threat, you don't actually have to be in danger for this to happen. And that just means there's not really enough blood left in the digestive tract for you to break down your food. And it also depletes your body of essential nutrients. And this also includes the nutrients that are required to produce stomach acid. As you can see, it's all a bit of a cycle. The body is very holistic in nature. One thing impacts the other, which impacts the other. And you have to consider these things when you want to do something like lose fat, get healthy, change your lifestyle, improve your mindset, all of those things. So managing stress is simple enough. It's just something that you have to bring into a daily practice. So sometimes you can't control what's going on around you. A lot of us do have a lot of stress and there's really nothing we can do about it. But what we can do is factor in time in the day for something like belly breathing or meditation practice, and just keeping in mind that you don't have to be good at any of these things to gain benefit. It is just the time that you put aside to trying to feel into your body or trying to down-regulate or trying to breathe into your belly that's actually going to bring about the benefit in the long term. So you don't have to succeed at it the first time you do it. You don't have to be good at it. It's like any skill. You're actually just teaching your body to shift itself. The body's very smart. It wants to be in rest and digest. It wants to be in a safe space. So no matter how stressed you are able to reprogram this over a period of time by working on those things. Now we have the fifth tip that I have for you, which is to skip the cheat meals. Cheat meals are an absolutely reckless practice if you want to lose fat. I never recommend them, especially if somebody has an eating disorder history or even disordered eating. So it's just a big no-no. And I've seen this on YouTube recently, like all these people doing 10,000 calorie challenge, 5,000 calorie challenge, eating as much food as they can in one sitting, gets lots of views. It's really cool. And the people that are doing it generally have amazing physiques because they're bodybuilders, but this is not a healthy practice, especially if you're trying to lose fat. I used to do this myself, like in 2010, this was a common practice. It was to eat the chicken and broccoli for 5 days or 6 days or 7 days of the week and then have a massive cheat meal on the weekend. Even in my first comp prep, I think I had about 8 blowout cheat meals. And I absolutely would have eaten 10,000 calories in that time because I had an eating disorder. I wasn't eating enough throughout the week in order to make way for this cheat meal. But sometimes I would be like mentally vacant for 3 days after because I'd eaten so much. And we worked out that if you switch from things like sugar to salt, from sugar to salt, you can actually eat more. If you go from hot food to packet food and keep alternating, you can eat more. So there's lots of ways you can have a really mad cheat meal, but I do not recommend it. The only time I would recommend it is if it's in a kind of controlled circumstance, like let's just say it's somebody's birthday and they're going to Italian, I'd say, all right, have a light breakfast and lunch and just enjoy yourself. But it's not a go to Woolies and grab a whole bunch of food, and it's not a, if you eat 5,000 calories in one sitting, you will not pay for that, because you will. So over the course of that week, you might reverse 3 weeks of progress. So just because the cool people do it on YouTube doesn't mean you should do it. And it doesn't mean that you're gonna be able to lose fat if you do it just because somebody else can. So just take it from me, most people, this is not a good practice. So skip the cheat meals and instead opt for a flexible dieting lifestyle. So that is where you pursue your health and lifestyle and body goals via a flexible dieting approach, which is where you track your carbs, fat, protein, and calories through an app, and you can eat pretty much anything you want to meet those targets and you will still lose weight. This is what I do with most of my clientele, unless we're at the tail end of a comp prep and it's starting to get really sticky, then I might take over and write a meal plan. And I always write meal plans in the beginning, but in the middle phase, I teach them how to write their own. So that means if they want to have like a lamb roast for dinner, they can. If they want to have protein pancakes for breakfast, they can. They can have something different every day of the week if they want. It just has to fit their targets. Takes a little bit more effort, but gives you the food freedom, and it actually takes away the urge to have a cheat meal. And another thing that we use, which is kind of common practice now, are diet breaks. You might go on a deficit for 8 weeks, which is very strict, no cheat meals, no refeed days, nothing like that. Then you might go for a couple of weeks. It can even go for a couple of months if you want. Maybe it's just 3 days where you go all the way back up to maintenance calories. And this just allows you to have a little bit more food freedom for a few days, but it's not a cheat meal. It's still tracked, it's still controlled, you still keep it on track. So my next tip, number 6, is to lift weights and eat lots of protein. This one I was gonna leave out because it kind of fitted in my other video, but it's super important. Always eat more protein than what they recommend because the recommendations are really based on your survival, not your thrival, and absolutely not your building of a strong and healthy lean body. So lifting weights is going to help with the muscle maintenance. It's also going to help you put on muscle. And the eating of the protein directly helps with putting on muscle, but it also helps you with satiety. So you won't be as hungry. You won't get manly. That's really hard. Mostly steroids is what does that. And it's not more expensive than eating any other way. And animal protein will not kill you. So just keep that in mind. Lifting weights, eat lots of protein. This will absolutely help you towards your fat loss goals. We have number 7, which is to not rely on supplements. So often someone will be like, I got this stack, it costs like $600 and now I'm gonna get better results. Probably not, that's the honest truth. I don't even hardly recommend supplements with my clientele. There aren't very many that have comprehensive studies, especially as it comes to women. And they also just mostly don't do what they say they do. So for example, a whey protein shake, it will add protein to your diet and it makes it easy for you to consume more protein. So it is a massive plus. I do recommend this with my clients, but it is not essential for results and it will not help you burn fat. Then we have fat burners that raise your heart rate and body heat, probably not help you burn more fat. Then you have branched chain amino acids. This has been proven to sort of help you retain muscle mass when you're in a deficit, so this is okay. But in a building season, if you're eating plenty of protein and plenty of calories, absolute waste of money, you don't need them. And then we have pre-trainers, which I am hard no against because they absolutely shoot your nervous system through the roof and it's gonna have to crash down again. And most of the women that I work with already have enough stress and they do not need their nervous system triggered and they don't need to overtrain. So if you're feeling really, really, really hyper and really stimulated, you're gonna train harder. So that's kind of the point of it. Like that's a good thing, but is it? Is that going to make you train too much? Is that going to make you train too hard? Because remember that you're not going to have that caffeine in there all the time. So at some point it's going to drip back down and you're going to have to recover from that session. I tend to recommend no. Like a black coffee, maybe if you are a coffee drinker, is a great pre-trainer, but that's probably about it. You want your body to produce its own energy in accordance with what it has available to you at that time. And that's going to help you develop long-term results. So the kind of supplements that you might find beneficial are actually things that may be depleted, say through stress or illness or just life in general. And that is things like vitamin D, vitamin C, magnesium, digestive enzymes, or hydrochloric acid. I used to have to take that when I had chronic fatigue syndrome because I wasn't breaking down any of my food. And things like zinc and omega-3 fish oil. So those kinds of things have absolutely got merit, and spending time in the sunlight to get the vitamin C is the ideal way, but a lot of us are deficient. So if you have access to testing for that kind of thing, then looking down that avenue could be really great, but make sure you do it with a qualified practitioner because you don't want to be getting these toxic over-the-counter nutrients, because sometimes they do more harm than good. And also, like they say, it just gives you expensive pee. So as a naturopath, we do lots of proper testing, and we also can order practitioner grade supplements. So they're the exact form that is needed for optimal absorption. And this absolutely can assist in fat loss. But you don't want to just take things willy-nilly. You really want to make sure you're getting proper guidance in that area, and then you'll make sure that you get your bang for your buck. Then we have number 8, which is rest. So even the most amazing athletes that you've ever seen in your life prioritize rest. Rest is just as important as the exercise period. So it lowers stress and it helps you build muscle. So if you're training too much, then you're going to end up being catabolic. If you're doing too much cardio, you're going to end up being catabolic. Catabolic is when you're actually burning off your muscle, not building it. It's also going to lead to fatigue, which means that when you do your workouts, you're not able to put as much energy in. And this is also not so good. So you want to have just the right amount of training, that you have lots of energy, doing really great sessions, and then you want to have lots of recovery time. And your recovery time could be something free, like watching TV, reading a book, laying down on the couch, hanging with your friends, or it could be something that you spend money on, like a float tank, a sauna, a cryo chamber, or an ice bath. But you don't need those things in order to recover. Just keep that in mind. If you're a normal human being just looking for a little bit of fat loss, okay, so your rest can literally just be you laying on the couch. Or we have what we call active rest, which is where you might be doing like mobility or some light yoga, like yin yoga, not anything strenuous. Or you might do some stretching or a light walk outside or something like that. So you don't have to do nothing if you're one of those really hyped up people that has to do something all the time. But what you want to do is something that does not push the nervous system. Now, lucky last, we have tip number 9, which is to drink lots of water. So there's water in vegetables, there's water in fruit. So you do get water from your food, but you do want to make sure that you're getting additional water in order to get good results. So without hydration, we cannot detoxify, we do not have energy, we can't digest food, and we cannot burn fat. And as an example, a 70-kilo woman needs about 2.5 liters of water per day just for general functioning. And yes, that includes water that's in your coffee, tea, protein shake. If you make a soup or anything like that, that's all included. And then if you exercise, especially if you sweat, then you want to have additional water. So I usually say for a training day, you might have an additional 500 milliliters of water, so half a liter. And if you have trouble drinking water, like sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, I actually can't drink any more water, and I've had a liter and I'm so full and I'm peeing all the time. That is the point. So now you're starting to pee some stuff out that shouldn't be stuck in the body in the first place. And that is actually really great news, but it just means that you might want to go 1 liter the first week, 1.5 the second week, 2 liters the third week, and then 2.5 the fourth week, so you can build it up really slowly, just like anything. So those are my 9 additional tips to assist in a successful fat loss journey. If you have any comments or questions, then leave them in the comment below. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Bye.